Welcome to this launching session of the Circular Investment Readiness Network, the first of its kind. My name is Nikolai Jacobi. I'm senior expert for circular economy at ICLE Europe, and ICLE is a partner. Well, for those of you who don't know, a European city network active in the field of circular economy and also working quite closely with the European Circular Cities and Regions Initiative together with our partners. And today we have a 1.5 hour session planned for you to launch a community of practice, a network dedicated to discussing all matters around circular project development, assistance, investment, and issues around those. We will have a brief introduction to the network itself, but also very briefly to the background projects that sort of are the background to what we are doing. Then we will have a short panel discussion with a few of our experts around this topic that we are working with currently, also in the dedicated projects. And then we have two excellent use cases of projects that have been on circular systemic solutions that have been financed, that will give us testimony around those around the challenges and successes that they have experienced. We will have time for your questions as well towards the end, and then we'll have around 20 minutes long breakout rooms, which are dedicated to understanding what your interests are to be part of such a community. I will come to that in a second. I said already, well, the length of the session, 1.5 hours, I think that's clear. The session will be recorded. There should be a little button. Well, it might already be starting. So now I'm saying it officially. It is being recorded. If anybody has a problem with this, please raise your voice. You can unmute yourself in the parts where I'm inviting you to, and you can just simply raise your hand and speak in the dedicated Q&A slots. But you can also use the chat function, of course, throughout. It will be monitored by colleagues of us, and you may speak through that as well. Last thing, we will be using Miro in the breakout rooms. There should be a link somewhere. It has been pasted to the chat I'm seeing right now. So you can check this out already to be sure it is working later on when we need it. When it comes to the background of this, the European Commission, as well as, of course, other actors in the working on circular economy and working on the circular transition in cities, have recognized that there are challenges for project developers, for SMEs, for cities, in particular local governments, working with these stakeholders in developing impactful projects on the one hand, and also getting them financed on the other hand. Those issues, most of you will be aware. We are also not addressing them right now in depth, but these issues are the reason why there are a couple of why there is increased sort of momentum and purpose by these actors to fund projects that are dedicated to providing project development support and assistance, both technical, legal, economic, etc., to these project development groups or to these project developers, again, SMEs, local governments, etc., to help them overcome these issues and to ultimately achieve a more circular economy in European cities. That being the background to what we're doing, we are concretely, and I'm saying in a second who we are also, doing this concretely in two projects currently. One of them, two European funded projects. One of them is the Circular Invest project, which is one of the two project development assistance projects providing this kind of support to project developers. And without really going into detail on the project itself, to let you know, to flag, to encourage you to submit your project ideas should you be among these project development groups right now in the audience. Submit your ideas to the consortium. There's an open call still until the end of December. Anybody correct me if that's wrong? I think so. End of December to the Circular Invest project consortium to receive advice, support, resources, etc., to get your project to a stage where it's bankable and where it's interesting for investors. The same goes for the definite project, which is also one where we are involved with, which ICLE is coordinating, in fact, which is slightly different, although very similar again in many ways. It's a little further progressed, but if should you be interested in that as well, please contact us. I've blended in the information here. Take a picture if you want from the slide right now. We will also, of course, make those available to you. Get in touch with us if you are interested to be supported through that as well. There's in-kind support in both of these projects through the expertise of the consortium partners that will be given to you free of charge, obviously. And there's also some subcontracting funds available upon application to these to project developers to fill in any gaps that cannot be filled by the project consortium. Those are our partners. You can see them right there. Some of them, or many of them, if not all, are actually here today and will be speaking as well. So you will meet them in a minute. Coming to the Circular Investment Readiness Network and what we are doing with that. So the main purpose, again, as I stated at the beginning, is to provide a platform, not a web platform, but an actual community, if you want, of practitioners, consisting of really all types of practitioners, but of course mainly targeting as in the core, if you will, anybody who is developing projects on the one hand side, and on the other hand side, anybody who's investing in projects. But of course, around these two core groups, there's room for really anybody who is attached to this work. Both projects that I've just described have the intention of creating such a community of practice as part of their project, of their program, and this is the reason why we have joined forces on this and have started this platform, or are starting this, and hope to work on these issues for the next 2 years for sure, and beyond, together with you. So this is a little bit about who is in the room. We have around 139 registrations, or had, not sure, people are still joining. Many of you are already here. You can see here who has registered, and you can also see on the right-hand side why people have registered. And clearly, there are very good reasons among those. This is already, by the way, really helpful for us to shape well, this session perhaps not, because we are in the middle of it, but the next and upcoming sessions for you and with you. Again, the purpose is really to focus on these two quite broad groups of developers and investors, and help overcome any challenges in them working together more efficiently, more effectively, and more frequently as well, sharing best practices, insights, and to collaborate on these matters. I think the benefits are quite clear. There's somebody with, yeah, thank you so much. The benefits are quite clear. We'll be tackling knowledge development. We'll have testimonies on technical and legal issues. Of course, we'll have room for knowledge exchange, and of course, we will collaborate, or at least help you meet each other and collaborate and facilitate collaboration through our network. The This slide shows the next 5 sessions in a draft way. So we are today at the kickoff session, as you can see, in November 23. We have a couple of ideas, of course, lined up that we think could be relevant and we think should be tackled. Next one, for instance, boosting impact of projects, so all around impact. The one after that being around investment requirements that need to be met. So a session all about investors and their point of view, and then a pitching session and so on. However, those are still very much drafts. So later, as I said, in the breakout rooms, and also after this meeting, would really like to understand what you think is useful for you and what would you need to be part of this community. After all, we want to keep working with you on these issues. So this should really be about your your interests and needs. The purpose of today, again, before we go on into the panel discussion, is really to launch this network, to get it underway, to meet you for the first time, to understand what you need. But we'll also cover a couple of topical and content issues around circular business development, around the challenges and opportunities for project developers and investors, in fact. And we'll hear hopefully some success stories about projects that have been successfully invested into. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome and thank our panelist group that we have here today, which has gladly agreed to talk to us around these issues. So welcome Kristin Strandberg from Circular Economy. Welcome this morning. Francesca Natali, welcome, is a project director from the Meta Group. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have Tommaso Busso, from a senior analyst from Bankers Without Boundaries. Good morning, Tommaso.
Good morning, it's a pleasure.
Thank you. And Dieter de Smeet, who is a manager of Invest in Ghent and is also working at the municipality of Ghent. Good morning, Dieter.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Nikolai.
So, kicking it off, we understand that circularity, circular cities is quite a hot topic. So maybe Kristin, to kick it off with you, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of circular projects, and from your point of view, what do you see the benefits and needs for innovation in circularity are?
Absolutely, thank you very much. Well, we see at Circular Economy, we work with cities around the world, mostly in Europe, in their circular transition. And we see that the ambition is actually very high out there. But in order for cities to fully scale circular ambitions, we see that a paradigm shift is really needed within the business environment. And this is where the circular innovations are truly crucial, where we need to find new ways to repurpose and recirculate our urban resource flows. So we need new innovations in the way products are designed, but also used and finally repurposed at the end of their life. And this, of course, requires new business models, such as leasing services or leasing products, products as a service, for example. But also a lot of innovation is needed within material innovations. So in order to create circular and bio-based products that we can use better currently, but also at the end of their life. And we also see that it's very clear from an economic standpoint that transitioning to a circular economy is truly beneficial. For example, McKinsey and Ellen MacArthur Foundation, they did a report on this in 2015. And they estimated that by applying a circular approach in Europe, Europe's resource productivity could be boosted by 3% by 2030, which would generate cost savings of 600 billion a year and a 1.8 trillion more in other economic benefits. So we really see that it's not only needed for the environment, for our people, but also we see that it's truly beneficial on an environmental or economic standpoint as well.
Yeah, thank you, Kristin, for setting the scene, if you will, for opening up the magnitude of topics and solutions that are out there. Maybe Francesca, over to you. If circularity is such a hot topic, why don't we see more successful projects like this being financed? And perhaps can you talk a little bit about the challenges that SMEs are facing when setting up circular business models in particular, and also perhaps explain what the differences are between those models and non-circular business models. Francesca.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. So, in my opinion, there are several reasons because circular economy project may not be prevalent as one may expect. Let me start in underline the fact that there is a lack of awareness and understanding. What does it mean? It means that many businesses may not be fully aware about the concept of circular economy or may not understand its potential benefit. And in such extent, education and awareness raising effort are crucial to increase the number of circular economy projects we may see around. Then let me also mention that there is also a short-term focus. What does it mean? It means that some businesses may give priority to short-term profits rather than to long-term sustainability. And because implementing circular economy projects may require upfront investment, so it may be more costly, and changes also to existing business model, which some organizations, some companies may be reluctant to undertake, to implement. And lastly, let me also mention that there are also some regulatory barriers that could reduce the number of circular economy projects we may see around. So existing policies may not always support in the proper way, in the right extent circular economy project. Governments, in such extent, can play really a crucial role in supporting circular economy project, creating a more favorable environment for such type of practices. But even if there are those challenges, there is also, especially among investors, a growing recognition of the importance of circular economy principles for a long-term sustainability. And as awareness will increase and success stories emerge, it is likely that we will see a greater adoption of circular economy projects, and we will see also more investors keen to provide financial means to such type of project. And for covering very fast the second part of your question, which refers to the challenges that companies may face when they implement a circular business model. They are mainly linked to the fact that they should shift from a linear take-make disposal model to one more focus on sustainability and resource efficiency. So it is a shift, and every type of shift and changes may require additional effort, meaning also additional investment. And it could be, I mean, a main challenge between non-circular business model and circular business model. Meaning that non-circular project may not face the same pressure in redesign processes and supply chains to minimize waste and maximize resource reuse. So, I mean, I would conclude, stressing the fact that there is also space for improving also among the community of investors, their awareness and their, let's say, understanding of circular business model in investment opportunities. And there is lots of space to promote more investment in such a direction.
Thank you, Francesca. Yeah, so quite a challenge to change the mindset of enough companies to really create momentum and make that shift happen, and the importance of the policy sector to create a level playing field and framework conditions that can support. If I capture your statement correctly.
Yeah, and let me also, just to make a very short additional comment, even if, there is still some reluctancy in making investments into such type of into such type of circular project. On other side, investor, especially venture capital investors, are, let's say, looking at more carefully to such type of opportunities, because they have also to implement ACG policies. So, there is also, a big opportunities for circular project to fit investors' expectation in such extent.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Francesca. That is a perfect sort of a bridge to the missing element in the round so far, which is the investor side. So maybe over to you, Tommaso, from Bankers Without Boundaries. If these challenges persist that we've just learned about, and I'm sure they are, so we all experience them. From an investor point of view, is that something that is being recognized by investors? And perhaps also in line with that question, what do you look at in your work quite personally when it comes to SMEs and circularity projects?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Nikolai. The hurdles that have been expressed so far are absolutely real, and we sort of see them also on our end. We work in our interactions with investors, with cities, with governments, and it's really our objective to try and bridge the gap between all these actors. There is definitely an interest, a keen interest, to push for investment in the circular economy sector, but as this has been mentioned already, there are quite some specific structures to circularity that need to be addressed somehow, and that needs to be sort of either explained or thought a bit when making an investment in circular economy project. Definitely the conception that there's high upfront investment costs, sort of a limited track record, and sort of lack of standardization, along with the fact that the circularity folder, or sort of the circularity category, is extremely large, doesn't tend to fit into the traditional established silos that are still being used by investors. Francesca made a good point when she said that venture capitalists are absolutely looking into this. They are sort of the frontier ones, the frontier investors that are trying to break into this field, but it's still something that it's quite challenging, especially to convince traditional investors to go into. We see development banks having a keen interest of that, the EIB, the EBRD, and others, but still the size of it can be a problem, and having a level of investment ticket that's sufficient for them to invest is something that we still need to develop.
Yeah, Thanks, Tommaso. Lots of issues ahead, but also opportunities. Dieter, from the city of Ghent, what do you, when you hear all this, what do you make of this, and where do you see challenges and opportunities for cities?
Yeah, I think where I see challenges and opportunities, I think cities at this point are facing a lot of problems and difficulties, of which is clear it's not to be solved alone. Although policy on a local and actions on a local level can create a big impact because small actions can be replicated quite fast. So yeah, I think small actions and circularity can create a big impact. I think we have to think circular. It's essential for creating a societal impact. So in Ghent, we decided that one of our main economic drivers for the future will be circularity. But that's challenging there. It's really a new way of thinking, new way of working, new way of acting. We are changing quite fast to think more in value change and set up real collaborations. Wherefore, in previous times, I think they were more on always thinking in standalone projects, setting up collaborations. Sorry, yeah, it's not so easy, but you can create quite fast synergies and win-win situations. In Ghent, we made a study how to transform our industry, and we have a quite big port area to a circular model, to be a fully circular port area. Because actually in the beginning we thought if we want to go full circular, this will have an impact on our economic and it will be quite hard to keep growing like this. Actually, the study stated that it's possible to grow the industry on all levels. I think going to a circular will mean 15,000 more jobs coming 10 years. So that's really an amazing possibility and opportunity to work. But to go to the circular economy, we need to work on another way, create, like I said, the value changes. So now we're getting more insights and creating really deep dive studies on what are the needs and opportunities on those value chains. For example, plastics, it's one specific topic, but it's still so broad. And if you want to dive in, what are the needs within circularity? For that, you have to go from design to resource infrastructure. So the needs are big, and I think there's a big opportunity to grasp as a city and to let the economy grow. And this will have a big impact on society. I think that's the most important. Circularity will have a big impact and can create new solutions of the problems we face today. And I fully agree that what Tommaso said, the need of investments, also a need of thinking of all investors is quite important. But I see it changing the last years, and I think everyone knows there are more opportunities because next to the linear model, a circular model, it creates like an extra asset, and it has a really long-term impact. And I think the long-term impact of circularity that will make the difference in the coming years. So I see more opportunities and challenges actually.
Yeah, thanks, Dieter. This is interesting, and of course, from a city perspective, the impact is really crucial, especially the societal and environmental impact. Anything that has to do with common goods, really, as a local government representing parts of society. And also a very interesting the sort of shift onto a focus on value chains instead of singular projects, so that there's a tendency that you're describing to focus on value chains, maybe even also waste types or material streams, etc. How is that, Tommaso? Back to you. I don't see you. Well, no, I do see you now. I'm sorry. Is that somehow reflected in the current landscape of of financing solutions somehow? Or if not, how does it look there? How can we finance more circularity projects, and what are some innovative tools out there that you are aware of?
Absolutely. So from the standpoint of cities, as Dieter said, there is this need to think in an ecosystem approach. So coordinating and foster collaboration between financial institutions, businesses, governmental agencies, to ensure that the effectiveness of the invested capital spans across the entire city, and you go from really the producers to the users and back to the producers, right? That's the idea. Ensuring that we're applying the projects that have clearly defined path to generating revenues. We know that once cities are involved, they try to think sort of more in a public sector way, which is, okay, this is a good thing, let's just fund it. But to attract investor, we need to think about revenue streams, and this is important. And lastly, showcasing successful state studies to demonstrate profitability so far. There are different tools. I won't go too much in detail, but just to get a sense for our listeners today, in smaller projects, especially project level for seeds, etc., we can expect to have the usage of green loans or revolving credit facilities with banks where capital is collected when it's needed, or at the equity level using angel investors or equity to debt convertible solutions. This is going to be a knowledge environment, so just some seeds to be implanted to start thinking about it, and then we're going to go more in detail probably in some of the following sessions.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Tommaso. Maybe to close the panel up, a couple more questions. Francesca, you mentioned on SMEs already some of the regulatory conditions that provide incentives for SMEs. You mentioned also costing, potentially life cycle costing. You didn't say that. I thought that. So would you like to elaborate on those, or are there others that you think SMEs need in order to work more effectively on these projects?
Yes, as I mean, it has been mentioned already several times. In order to support those projects, those circular projects, in becoming more investor ready, it is very crucial to think about, capacity building programs. On the other side, just to be very brief, it is very also relevant to think about money in order, to support those companies in accessing the right type of money they may need to implement their businesses activities. And I'm thinking about financial incentives, but I'm also thinking about tax incentives that could, let's say, on one side, encourage companies in becoming more circular, and on the other side, maybe also, let's say, useful in attracting investors that could benefit for the tax break and for the tax reduction that such type of investment may offer. I believe also that companies having implementing circular business model could have such, what I call fast track in accessing finance and in accessing benefits, because it may also help those projects to come out and to become more visible. And just last comment about visibility. I believe that, as I already said, governments and public stakeholders may play a crucial role in making success stories more visible and promoting success coming from the circular economy environment in order, to show that it's possible to be successful, it is possible to be profitable, even if, you are implementing a circular business model. And I believe it is very important to show success coming from such type of market.
Thanks, Francesca. Yeah, and that already provides a small lesson learned to invite a national or even EU policy a perspective into some of our next round to address these issues, as many of those are solved really at the national level and even EU level. Thanks for that. Dieter, maybe over to you. Is there some to close it off? Is there some of the experiences you had with partnerships in your city, in your work personally, that you would like to share, and where others can gain insights from?
Yeah, due to the time, I will keep it really short, because otherwise we will be out of our program. But I think circularity, for me, the basic principle is working together and collaboration. Circularity, it never stands alone. It's part of a circle. So yeah, it's essential for working together, creating impact together, and not working as a standalone. Is it an investor? Is it an SME? It's all the same. You have to work together. So circularity for me, it's working together and creating collaborations and real partnerships. So that's in like 10 seconds or 20 seconds.
Perfect. Thanks, Dieter, and thanks for keeping the time or watching the time as well, which is my job. So thanks a lot for supporting me on that. Okay, thanks to our panelists. Thanks a lot for your time, for setting the scene, for highlighting, I think, a lot of issues that we will not be able to tackle all today, but that provide us, I think, a lot of touch points for the upcoming sessions. Thanks so much. We, as highlighted already, we are a little bit short in time, but I would have time for maybe one question or so from the audience. If anybody would like has a burning question, maybe not philosophical, but rather about comprehension, follow up, also from the chat potentially. If not, Alessandra, if from the team. Okay, we have one from Jonas Bistrom from the EIB. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks a lot for this points made by the expert panel. I think very illuminating and useful. And there was a point made by Tommaso that I would like to react to a bit, not with a question, just a brief statement. You mentioned that banks like the European Investment Bank, which I represent, and others may have difficulties in financing the circular economy. And maybe then I would like to counter that by saying that in the last 5 years, we have provided, I think, 3.4 billion of financing to 118 circular projects. We are doing quite a lot. We fully agree with you that there are challenges. I mean, circular economy projects, they may be smaller than the kind of tickets we would usually do. We have many different instruments to cater for that. For example, with cities, we have something we call municipal framework loans. It's a credit line where we agree to allocate a large share of financing for a long-term investment that the city can do in many different, also very small projects that can be circular. We work with many cities to try to help them to identify these circular components that could be allocated under such a framework loan. We also work through other banks, intermediary banks, and they can then really work with the small SMEs, etc. And when it comes to the more novel, innovative projects, new circular business models, or maybe circular technologies, we have, together with the Commission, who provide a guarantee, also gone into venture debt, and we can actually then finance the early stage, the more risky business. So while we agree there are challenges, I think banks like the EIB and maybe others, we really see the potential, we really see the need to try to provide the kind of financing that would accelerate this circular transition, in particular in cities. And there, as you may know, we work through the Circular City Center in many different ways, also to get to the kind of projects for which we later can provide financing. So challenge is yes, but willingness and ability also yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonas. Just to follow up on this, I was not saying that the EIB is now managing to deploy capital. I was just making a point on the ticket size, which is quite important, and but also the fact that EIB is one of the few main actors who's really going strong on circular economy, whereas there's a lot of other actors that talk about it but not really act. So thanks for this precision. That's really important.
Great, thanks for putting this into perspective, both of you. We have a couple of questions in the chat. However, I think we have to move on, but we will be either I advise you, I encourage you to ask those later in the breakout rooms. I think this could be a possibility to sort of knit those in. And another way is basically to write those to us. We will also monitor those and get back to those if possible in a sensible way by email after this meeting. So thanks so much again to our panelists. Moving forward to success stories, we have two wonderful and successful financing projects or project circular systemic solutions which have been financed with us today. One is the Euro Manganese, which is represented by Matthew James, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer, and Euro Manganese is dedicated to innovative manganese recycling in the battery industry, and that project has been financed completely or partly, we'll hear in a second, by the EBRD, which is represented today by Roberto Gonzalez, who is the Principal Sustainable Business and Infrastructure Officer at the EBRD. So I'm not sure who presents first, but the floor, I think Matthew, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to the Circular Investment Readiness Network for the opportunity to tell you about our Chvaletice manganese project, which is in the Czech Republic. Yes, EBRD is one of Euro Manganese's largest shareholders. It made an equity investment of about 6 million euro, which represents about 4.5% of our shareholding. So Euro Manganese is a battery metals company focused on delivering fully traceable, responsibly produced manganese for the electric vehicle industry. Manganese is an essential component in most lithium-ion batteries in the cathode, but China controls the global supply of high-purity manganese. Over 90% is produced in China. So developing a local, sustainable supply chain for battery metals is crucial to the delivery of the EU's energy transition. And Euro Manganese were developing a unique waste to value project in the Czech Republic. We're actually reprocessing historical mine tailings, so waste of an old mine, which still has a lot of manganese in it, to produce a high purity manganese product. And this tailings area is actually polluting the current countryside, environmental sort of water pollution. And as we process this material, we'll actually be remediating this currently polluting site. So not only is it a waste to value, it is actually a remediation project at the same time, using sort of best-in-class environmental standards. We're not using any fresh water. We're using wastewater from a power station next door as our process water. We're recycling some of the CO2 that's produced in our process, as well as capturing other emissions like hydrogen and blending that with our natural gas, and whilst recycling some of our own reagents as well. We've completed a life cycle assessment, an independent life cycle assessment, which shows that our carbon emissions are 1/3 of the current incumbent industry in China, as well as improving the soil and water quality as we go. We're quite unique because our resource is actually the only manganese resource in the EU. So the project supports the EU requirement for local extraction, processing, and use of recycled raw materials. So some of our customers can classify our product as a recycled product because we are using a historical waste. And it's really important for our customer base that we have full transparency of product from mine to the market. This project has a 25-year mine life, but what we're also doing is working to study the potential to help recycle the end-of-life EV batteries. And the intent is in 25 years' time, the project could be running 100% recycled material coming from the manganese that's produced from recycled batteries that needs purifying again before it can go back into the EV market. I've been asked to sort of talk quickly about the challenges in designing a circular project. And so this is obviously from our perspective. But what was really, really important right from day one is to clearly articulate the circular value proposition compared to the traditional resources, and to get that external validation from an independent life cycle assessment. You know, in the mining industry, and I think this will probably apply for any new project, permitting is still a heavy burden, even with circularity. And what you've got to particularly watch out for is not to get caught in waste regulations, which could inadvertently hinder a project. There are some quite tough regulation in the EU around waste. So if you are using an end-of-life product, making sure it's not inadvertently captured or hindered by that waste regulation is really important. Funding is clearly a challenge. During design, feasibility study, and engineering stages of a new project, that all has to be funded by equity, or certainly in our case. No debt is available until you get to a bankable position, which in our case means engineering is substantially complete, all permitting is in place, you have sales contracts for the majority of your product. So there really is a heavy equity requirement up front. Royalty streams, selling a royalty stream on your project is a new opportunity that's becoming available, and that could apply to other products, not just metal products. And so the circular invest assistance and potential subcontracting funding sources sound like a really good opportunity to help in those early stages. For us, the EU Critical Raw Materials Act is certainly a step in the right direction in helping permitting and access to funding, but it has a way to go to actually deliver that funding for critical raw material products. And
Perfect.
And again, quickly, if you're competing, understand your competitor from a non-circular perspective, because you have to be able to compete with those, and hopefully you can get an incentive pricing for an ESG compliant circular product. So I'll hand over to the EBRD for their perspectives before moving on to sort of maybe some lessons learned.
Thanks, Matthew. Over to you, Roberto.
Thank you, Matthew. So yeah, I will let Irini, my colleague Irini Constantino, to talk about more the financial bankability of the projects and banking aspects of the project, as she was the banker involved in the project. Thank you.
Hello, good morning all. I'm Irini Konstantinou, working in the Natural Resources Banking team in London, and have indeed, as Roberto said, working in this investment since its origination. In December 2021, EBRD invested 8.5 million Canadian dollars to the share capital of Euromanganese in order to finance the completion of the feasibility study and other pre-development works. We have swiftly appreciated the strategic importance of this project for Europe, as it will introduce more competition in the market and achieve the sustainability of the supply chain, and of course its importance in the critical raw material space for the production of electric batteries. We have also recognized that the project has strong circularity, green and sustainability credentials, and it's also very important for the regional economic development. A key component of the bank's mining strategy is to support the circularity in the production of metals that are essential for the green transition. And one of the bank's priorities is to increase the share of its investment in the exploration phase of critical raw materials. Therefore, Euromanganese is not only very well aligned with all of these goals, but it's also due to its characteristics, which is the reprocessing of existing tailings, has processing cost and environmental advantages when compared to the typical high purity manganese production facilities. It is worth mentioning also that this is the first non-regional project we signed in the Czech Republic since the bank resumed operations in 2021. And the project is fully aligned also with the equity green credentials included in the bank's country strategy for the Czech Republic. And we also were asked to comment a bit on the criteria that we used. So the criteria that we used, as we do with any other internally approved project, we evaluate each project in terms of the financial, environmental, technical, and legal aspects, and we conduct a thorough due diligence for this. So we applied the same approach with the Euromanganese project, and we considered that the timing was right to invest in terms not only of the stage of the project, but also of its strategic importance. That's all for me.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Irini.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew, Roberto, Irini. This is really sounds like a very complete project, also tackling so many issues, and from your perspective, from EBRD's perspective, to hear about the alignment with a lot of these policy objectives. I hope that, yeah, it sounds a bit intimidating almost, that as if projects have to align so well with European policy objectives in order to receive funding, which is, of course, just subjective. Matthew, did you want to highlight very briefly some final lessons learned?
Sure. I mean, I think begin thinking about your ESG criteria and risks early. Get a sustainability report done early can help with that, and prioritize the areas of importance for both your stakeholders and the company. EBRD is a valuable partner for us. They do a good due diligence process, and their environmental and social policy is rigorous, and that helped us identify our ESG action plan and to be able to report against that. And they're a very flexible partner, open to discussing and supporting companies. And we view them as a long-term partner as we move into the debt financing portion of our project development.
Wonderful. It would be really really instrumental to speak more to you about this in our upcoming sessions, potentially, and to learn from your experience on the project. Really interesting case. Thanks so much, Matthew.
Pleasure.
Roberto, Irini, thanks so much. Yeah, we have to move on. As you probably can tell, we have another wonderful solution that we want to present to you, which is the UNO company, which is founded by Chris van der Voorde, who is also here with us, who is a founder and CEO, which is dedicated to construction in a broader sense, working on reducing waste, on using materials and components in the construction sector. UNO is one of Belgium's fastest growing sustainable company for 2 years in a row, and UNO has been financed by Trivident, who I have been told we have also a representative here, if I'm not mistaken, which is Jesse Dubois, if I'm pronouncing this correctly. In any case, Chris, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Well, be presenting my screen. Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Yes.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So I'm Chris, and I'm the founder of Juno. And at Juno, we have created the wall that pays off. So it's an interior wall typically used in offices that at the end of a life will create value so that can be reused instead of costing money by throwing it away. Now, as I mentioned, I'm Chris, and I started my company with the goal of doing something for my kids. So I named my company after Jules and Noor, because these two guys, they will ask me about climate change. And as an engineer with a passion for walls, what I wanted to solve is actually the problem that we are throwing every year more than 300 billion euros of interior walls just in the dumpster like this. It's 1% of global CO2 emissions. And to make stuff worse, actually, there is a scarcity of materials linked with different sustainable laws coming in. We don't have the labor force to keep on doing this. And our clients and office spaces, most likely, they demand for more flexibility. And what we did was actually a solution. It's a wall that clicks together like Legos. It's a patented system that builds unbelievably fast, gives very beautiful results that have the best acoustics in the world. And the cool thing about it is you build it fast and you can dismantle it as well, as you have seen in the movie. And if you compare this with other systems, our system is at the initial same price as a drywall. So the classical interior wall in your house is a drywall. We don't cost more money. But at the end of life, you throw it away and then you buy a new drywall. With Juno, you're going to reuse the system and thus you're going to save money. And if you can't reuse it yourself, what makes us unique, everything we sell, we simply buy it back. And what we then do is we buy it back and we sell it again. And then we sell it again and again and over and again. And this is what we call the concept of circular value. This is how we create value for society. Instead of always building and throwing away and throwing all that money away, we can reuse it. And by doing this, by creating this value over time, it actually makes us unbeatable, because in a second time, we're at a lower sales price and we can have actually higher profits. So this is important. We are a business model demonstrating what circular value could mean for our economy. Now, this leads to less CO2 because we can use more valuable materials, and over time, by reusing, it's also less CO2 by reusing. So it's combining economics with sustainability. We do this in Europe and in the US. And yeah, we do this because we have amazing clients. As mentioned, we're indeed 2 times in a row the fastest growing sustainable company in the world. And to do this, we needed to have very strong partners. We have investors like Saint-Gobain, ArcelorMittal, the federal government, but also Trivident, which we were very proud on to have as a partner. So this is a very short introduction. I'll hand it now over to Jesse.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I will share my screen as well. I hope you see my screen. So Trivident was founded in 2001 as a public-private partnership in Belgium. This makes us probably the first so-called impact investor, even before the term was known. We are an impact-first fund, so which means we are attentive to companies that prioritize making a positive impact, like you know. But secondary, but yet still even important, that are profitable as well. We focus on startups and middle market companies in Flanders and Brussels, with international ambitions, like but more specifically on these three categories: deploying talents, which means creating employment opportunities for individuals who face challenges in accessing the labor market. The third one is connecting society. This is more like social innovation that try to bridge a gap between that still exists in various domains in society. And the middle one, as circular solution, the theme of this session is also a target group for Trident. And for us as an investor, the circular economy offers several advantages. For us as impact investor, but I can definitely say that it's also relevant for traditional investors, because it firstly it promotes efficiency in resource use by reusing, remanufacturing, and recycling materials. Companies can reduce their dependence on scarce resources, like Chris already said, thereby lowering operational costs. For instance, reusing materials in production processes decrease the need for sourcing new materials, which can mitigate cost fluctuations and supply chain risks. And secondly, even more important for an investor is it enhances innovation and can create new revenue streams, which are mostly recurring revenue streams. It's very interesting for an investor, because companies are encouraged in a circular way to develop innovative business models, such as project as a service, leasing arrangements, and so on, where products are designed for durability, repair, and upgradability. And this shift towards more oriented approach generates new market opportunities and also fosters a competitive edge towards the alternatives, like Chris already mentioned. And then thirdly, I think evenly important is that the circular economy, which has risks associated with environmental regulations and public perception. Businesses operating within a circular framework tend to have smaller environmental footprint, which can result in better compliance and so on. And then for us, as an impact investors, on top of that, we have two more layers. From a societal perspective, the circular economy creates value by reducing environmental impact, it goes without saying, and fostering a more sustainable future. And additionally, and it's not said before here, it encourages job creation. The need for recycling infrastructure, with manufacturing facilities, and other circular economy related industry leads to the generation of new job opportunities. And for us, it's a sticking point of Trident, more specifically for disadvantaged groups as well. And I think this is one of the reasons as well that we invested in Juno. We only did a small ticket, but we did our part and our share in the whole mix of Juno. And I think this one, the shift towards circular framework, and ultimately creates a win-win both for the investor, where economic prosperity coupled with environmental responsibility and social well-being go hand in hand. And then I want to mention this as well, because it's a bit specific for an impact investor, that we not only monitor the financial figures of our investees, but we offer them an impact trajectory as well, based on a theory of change, where we want to define with our companies impact indicators that capture the desired impact as much as possible. And we monitor these indicators on a regular basis, twice a year, alongside the financial figures. So that's it for me. Over to the rest.
Thanks, Jesse and Chris. Thanks for sharing the solution. I'm learning a lot hearing all of these solutions. It sounds really absolutely on point in terms of what is needed to transform the construction sector in this case, obviously. Yeah, thanks so much, and also for you. I hope we will be hearing more of you, and we'll be having the chance to speak more in depth in some of our next occasions. Thanks so much to both teams for these interventions. Moving on, we'll like to now give the floor to each of you and break into breakout groups where you will have the chance to not only speak potentially a little bit more with Chris and Jesse and the team from Euromanganese as well as EBRD, but also to voice more on a meta level your interests and needs in terms of having a community of practice like this network. And to explain this a little further and also to break, I'll turn it to my colleagues. Kristen, perhaps over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I believe that it's better that we break out in our respective groups, and then we can explain the sessions there for all of us, so we can also ask questions, etc. So, conscious of time, let's move into our respective rooms, and then we will be back here in 20 minutes.
Okay, so welcome back. I hope you had a very good, short but informative session. I think very guided structure. I think it will be really helpful for us also to get a bit of data around what you need and where you stand. So I think that can be really useful. And of course, we might hope to create some more free exchange in the upcoming sessions. So just very briefly, we're closing in 5 minutes, trying to be punctual. Very briefly, a tour around with the key message from each of the room moderators. Just what was the most discussed topic or message that stuck out to you? Kristin, you go first, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, in our group, we were conscious about time, so we didn't have time to discuss that much. But it was very clear that the policy and regulatory support was rated the highest need, and we discussed a little bit the need of input from Ukraine of how to support new legislation in Ukraine for circular project developments, and moving on to the financial part, it was obvious that circular business models was really high on the agenda, where discussing different types of needs also connected to Ukraine as well. I believe we have only 3 minutes left, so I'll leave it over to the next facilitator to just quickly pitch back the
maybe very
most pressing ones.
It was very similar for us. So policy and regulatory support, and also the collaboration and partnerships, which were the ones that had like most dots, but overall it was kind of distributed across like all the different technical supports that we listed. And then for question 4 for us was also actually the circular business models and the connection with investors that we've heard several times. So over to the next group.
Also a nice spread in group 3. So on the technical support, actually almost everything had around 2 dots. So the needs are quite spread, and I think that's quite a challenge. Says a lot also. Question 4 for us was more on refining the business strategy and the regulatory part that came out the most in our group.
And I think group 4 was me, also Claudia from Circular Economy. And I think we had, in the technical side, we had 3 clear winners: measuring and assessing circularity, designing for circularity, and the need for life cycle assessment. While maybe for the financial side of things, it was a few dots for everywhere. So I guess it was more of a widespread need for all these elements to be actually touched upon. And together with me in the room, there was also there were my colleagues from the Circular Invest team. So we discussed also the possibilities that Circular Invest will offer to tackle a few of these technical and financial challenges. And the call for project is open to receive project development assistance until December. So if project owners in this room want to apply, they can still do so until the end of the year.
And lastly, group 5, probably my own bias. We stuck to finance, so thank God we had very, very interesting wisdom of Jonas, who walked us through all the key elements of what they're looking for financing and understanding a frontier market, going through and preparing for an innovative business model, trying to have letters of intent of the local economy to endorse some specific businesses and some specific activities. So this was really useful, I think, for everybody there, and also hearing from Igor on the side of things of Slovenia, of the effort of putting together all this consortium and pushing to attract investors. Absolutely interesting. So thanks everybody who participated.
Thanks, Tommaso, and everybody. Yeah, that sounds very very good. We'll certainly analyze this information further. Also looking at the Miro in a more of a quantitative way to look a little bit what it is that you want, that you need, and we'll create a LinkedIn group if it has not been created already. I'm not sure. It has. Okay, it has been created already, which is the main vehicle through which we will disseminate information about the CERN main vehicle, besides the website, obviously, a social media vehicle to just stay in touch, to inform you, to create momentum. Please write us also if you have a more elaborate concern or matter to discuss. Contact us through contact@definite/ccri.eu, which is currently the website at which you can reach us. Also to help us shape further or give your opinion about further sessions. So thank you everybody. Thanks to the panelists, to the 2 projects that have pitched, and to everybody that has taken part. I hope this was useful to you, and hope to see you next time. Thanks so much.